So you've probably heard of the Odyssey, right? It's one of the great epics from the ancient world. But what's it really all about? Well, believe it or not, it's more than just a bunch of cool monster fights and angry gods. It's actually something way more human. The ultimate story of one man trying to get home, against all odds.
20. Just let that number sink in for a second. 20 years. That's how long our hero, Odysseus, the brilliant king of Ithaca, was gone from his home. Think about it. 10 of those years were spent fighting the Trojan War, and then he spent another 10 just trying to sail back. We're talking about an entire generation passing by.
And really, that's what this whole epic boils down to. It is, hands down, the greatest homecoming story ever told. It's all about one man's sheer will, his desperation, and this burning desire to overcome anything, and I mean anything, for the chance to see his family again.
All right, so let's set the scene. The Trojan War is finally over. The city of Troy is nothing but a pile of ashes. For Odysseus, his only thought is getting back to his wife Penelope and his son Telemachus, a son he barely even knew before he left for the war. So he gathers his fleet, probably thinking, "Whew, the hard part's over." Oh, he had no idea.
You know, the trouble starts almost immediately. I mean, right from the get-go. First, they stop for supplies and get into a bloody battle with the locals, the Sacones. Then, a massive storm blows them way off course, and they wind up in this really strange place, the land of the lotus eaters. And here's the crazy part. Some of his men eat this native fruit that basically erases their memory. They forget their homes, their families, even the desire to leave. Odysseus literally has to drag them back to the ships.
But you know what? Those early problems, they were just a warm-up. They were absolutely nothing compared to the one single, pivotal mistake that would completely derail his journey. A mistake born from a moment of victory that would cost him the next 10 years of his life. And it all came down to pride.
So they're on another island looking for food, and they stumble into this huge cave. Terrible move. The entrance gets blocked by a massive boulder, and the owner comes home. And it's Polyphemus, a giant, one-eyed, man-eating cyclops, and he is not happy to find them there. He just grabs two of Odysseus' men and eats them, just like that.
Okay, but this is where Odysseus proves why he's a legend. He knows he can't just kill the Cyclops, right? Because then they'd be trapped in the cave forever behind that boulder. So he comes up with this incredible four-step plan. First, he offers the giant some super strong wine and gets him totally hammered. Second, the giant asks his name, and Odysseus says, "My name is Nobody." Brilliant. Third, once the Cyclops passes out, they take a huge wooden stake, heat the tip in the fire, and, yeah, they drive it right into his one eye. And finally, the escape. The next morning, they cling to the bellies of the giant sheep as he lets them out to graze. It's genius.
And this is the punchline to the whole clever setup. Polyphemus is screaming in pain, right? His Cyclops buddies on the island hear him and rush over yelling, "Who's hurting you?" And what does he yell back? "Nobody is killing me. Nobody." So what do? They just shrug and walk away. A perfect getaway.
But then he messes up. Big time. He just can't help himself. This is where we see his fatal flaw, hubris. That's the Greek word for a dangerous, excessive pride. As they're sailing away, safe and sound, Odysseus just has to gloat. He starts yelling back at the blinded giant, and what does he do? He shouts his real name. "It was I, Odysseus." He just had to get the credit for it. A massive, massive mistake. And here's why that was such a terrible idea. Turns out, Polyphemus is the son of Poseidon, the god of the sea. By screaming his own name, Odysseus basically handed Poseidon a target for revenge. The Cyclops prays to his dad, and Poseidon hears him. He lays down this brutal curse. Odysseus will wander the seas for 10 more years. He will lose every single man in his crew, and if he ever makes it home, he'll be a broken stranger. And just like that, the curse kicks in. What follows is this epic series of trials. It's like a gauntlet of monsters and angry gods, with Poseidon making sure the sea is as unforgiving as possible. Odysseus' crew just gets picked off, one disaster at a time. I mean, just look at this. It's like a highlight reel of misery. Year 1, his crew gets greedy, opens a magic bag of winds, and whoosh, they're blown right back to where they began. Same year, they meet the witch Circe, who casually turns his men into pigs. Year 2, he has to literally tie himself to the mast to resist the deadly song of the sirens. And then, get this, he spends 7 years trapped on an island with the goddess Calypso. It's just one thing after another, for a decade.
And then he comes to maybe the most famous rock-and-a-hard-place situation ever.
He has to navigate a narrow channel. On one side, you've got Scylla, a six-headed sea monster that is guaranteed to grab and eat 6 of your men. On the other side, Charybdis, a giant whirlpool that will just suck down your entire ship, everyone on board. What do you do? It's a horrible choice. So he makes the cold, hard call of a leader. He sails closer to Scylla, sacrificing 6 men to save the ship and the rest of the crew.
But even after all of that, after everything they've survived, the crew makes one final fatal mistake. They're stranded on an island, they're starving, and against Odysseus's direct orders, they kill and eat the sacred cattle of the sun god Helios. This was the one thing they were explicitly told not to do.
And the punishment is immediate and absolute. Helios is furious, goes straight to Zeus, and Zeus just obliterates their ship with a lightning bolt. Every single crew member drowns. Poseidon's curse is fulfilled. Out of all the ships and all the men who left Troy, only one survives: Odysseus.
So after finally being released and getting some help, Odysseus at long last sets foot on Ithaca. But the happy homecoming he's been dreaming of for 2 decades? Yeah, that's not what's waiting for him. In fact, his final and maybe his greatest battle is just about to begin, right inside his own home. Because back at the palace, it's a total disaster. More than 100 arrogant suitors have basically taken over, eating all his food, drinking all his wine, and trying to force his loyal wife, Penelope, to marry one of them. So his divine helper, the goddess Athena, gives him a hand. She disguises him as a frail old beggar so he can sneak in and see just how bad things really are. Now, Penelope, who's every bit as clever as her husband, comes up with a brilliant plan of her own to stall for time. She announces a contest. She'll marry any man who can string Odysseus's impossibly stiff bow and then shoot an arrow clean through 12 axe heads lined up in a row. Of course, she knows there's only one man in the world who could ever pull that off. The suitors, full of themselves, just laugh and take their turns. But this bow is a symbol of true strength and kingship. And, well, not a single one of them is even strong enough to bend it, let alone string it. They're totally humiliated.
Then the old beggar asks for a turn. The suitors mock him, of course, but he picks up the bow, and in a moment of stunning silence, he strings it with effortless grace, like a musician stringing an instrument. He plucks the string, it sings, and then he fires the arrow perfectly through all 12 axes. The laughter in the hall dies instantly.
And in that moment, the beggar is gone, and the king stands revealed. Odysseus, with his son Telemachus and a few loyal servants, turns that legendary bow on the suitors. They lock the doors, and, in a bloody, brutal reckoning, they reclaim the palace, killing every last man who defiled their home.
With his kingdom restored and his authority reestablished, only one thing remains: the reunion with Penelope, the whole reason for his 20-year journey. And after she tests him one last time to be sure it's really him, she embraces the husband she waited for. The hero is finally truly home.
And all this leaves us with one final thought. After fighting monsters and surviving the wrath of gods for a decade, what was Odysseus's final, greatest challenge? Was it the journey itself at sea? Or was it the homecoming? The struggle to reclaim his identity and his place in a world that had moved on without him?